Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to be doing biology paper 2, multiple choice, May-June 2020. This is the variant 2 version. Let's get started. Question number 1. The diagram shows what happened in experiment with plant seedlings. Which characteristic of living things make the seedling grow towards the light? Well, this is something called phototropism. Phototropism is basically the sensitivity of plants based on how they respond to light. And so light, this means the sensitivity. D is the correct answer. Question number 2. A rat has the scientific name Rattus rattus. What do the two parts of the name refer to? Remember the first part, the capital, the one that is written in the capital is always the genus. And the one that is written with the small letter is called the species. So always remember genus, species, genus, species. So it is A. 3. The diagram shows a plant cell. A biologist wants to find out the number of chromosomes it contains. Which label part should be examined more closely? So the number of chromosomes, and remember chromosomes are they are inside the nucleus. They're contained inside the nucleus. They are basically DNA. Therefore, A is the correct answer. Okay, let's move on. Question number 4. The diagram shows a human liver cell. The length of the structure M is 6 millimeters. This is the image size. The magnification is 2000. This is the magnification. Okay, what is the actual length? Remember the formula, magnification formula, which is image size over actual size. And so if you want the actual size, we've got to rearrange it. So actual is equal to image over magnification. So the image size is 6 millimeters. The 6 millimeters, we can change it into micrometers, which is 6,000 micrometers, because the units of the options are given in micrometers. So let's go 6,000 micrometers. Okay, and the magnification is 2000, and therefore the answer is 3 micrometers. So B is the correct answer. Question number 5. Which diagram shows the appearance of a plant cell several minutes after it has been placed in a concentrated sugar solution? Remember, if the concentrated solution of sugar, which means there's high amount of sugar, but the water potential there is very low, and this means the plant cell, the water in the plant cell is going to go out. The water in plant cell is going to go out, and therefore they will become flaccid, and they will become plasmolized. Basically the shrinkage of the cell membrane, and therefore A is the most likely answer. Okay. Question number 6. An uncooked piece of potato was placed in a solution. After 2 hours, the size of the piece of the potato has decreased. Which will explain why this has happened and how the potato cells have changed. Well, this is an uncooked piece of potato. It was placed in a solution. After 2 hours, the size of the potato has decreased. So this is before. Let me draw this diagram. The potato stick then either decreases, the mass is decreased, or the size or the length have decreased. This means they have become more flaccid, and then that the potato cells, the water potential in the potato cells are higher, and the external solution is lower, and therefore the water from the cells go out to the solution, and therefore A is the correct answer. Question number 7. The diagram shows a section of DNA with 4 bases identified on one strand. Okay, which sequence of bases would be on the other strand? So remember, A and T always pairs up, C and G always pairs up. So this G is going to pair up with C, is going to pair up with T, C is going to pair up with G, T is going to pair up with A. So the strand would be CTGA, and B is the correct answer. Question number 8. Which food testing solution shows a positive result when it turns from blue to purple? Remember, when it turns to purple, this means that protein is present. If protein is present, the solution or the burette agent is basically the burette solution that you put for the protein test. Therefore, B is the correct answer. Question number 9. The diagram shows 4 types of human tooth. Which teeth are used for grinding food? For grinding food, we use the premolar and the molar, so 3 and 4. And therefore, C is the correct answer. Question number 10. Enzymes function best at their optimum temperature. Which statement describes the effect of enzyme of increasing the temperature to the enzyme's optimum temperature? This means when the temperature increases, there are more frequent successful collisions. This is correct. So A is the correct answer. Question 11. The diagram shows how the rate of photosynthesis varies with light intensity. The forward curve shows different conditions of temperature and carbon dioxide concentration. What limits the rate of photosynthesis at point P? Well, here you can see the temperature. Okay, the temperature is limiting because the one above is 30 degrees Celsius. So temperature is one of the limiting factors. However, the carbon dioxide is not the limiting factor because it is the same. It is the same. I'm sorry, it is the limiting factor as well because the ones above them has 0.2% CO2, and so it is also a limiting factor. But the light intensity is not a limiting factor here because, as you can see, the graph turns, it becomes constant at some point, and therefore the light intensity is constant. Therefore, C is the correct answer. Question 12. The diagram shows a plant cell. In which part of the cell does photosynthesis occur? So in which part photosynthesis occur is basically the chloroplast, and that is where they synthesize the carbohydrates, or basically glucose, as you might have known. So the chloroplast is D, so D is the correct answer. 13. The graph shows the effect of pH on the activity of an enzyme. In which part of the alimentary canal would this enzyme be most active? Alimentary canal is basically the whole stomach or the digestive system. So which part of the alimentary canal would this enzyme be most active? Let's see, it is at pH 2, so this is very acidic. It's an acidic pH. And remember, an acidic enzyme that is working is always in the stomach. It works best in the stomach, and therefore D is the correct answer. Question number 14. The diagram shows the structure of a villus. The arterial, capillary, lacteal, and venule are labeled with the letters. Which letter shows where the nutrients are absorbed into the blood? Nutrients, remember, they are absorbed basically glucose, C6H12O6, plus amino acids. Okay, and so basically they're being absorbed from the capillary, and therefore B is the correct answer. Question number 15. Which change increases the rate of uptake of water uptake by the roots of plant? To increase the water uptake from the roots of plant, you have to increase the evaporation rate, and therefore the transpiration rate has to be higher. The transpiration rate has to be higher in order for the water or the transpiration stream of the water uptake by the roots to increase as well. So the decrease in evaporation would not work, and decrease in length of root hair cells also would not work. However, a decrease in water potential of the root hair cells would work. So if there is less water potential in the root hair cells than in the soil water, then the water is going to go from high water potential to low water potential, and this is called osmosis, and therefore C is the correct answer. Question 16. Daughter is a plant that grows on other plants called the host. The daughter plant connects to the host vascular bundles. Remember, vascular bundles is made of two parts, the xylem and the phloem. The daughter plant does not have green leaves or roots, so it does not photosynthesize, which correctly describes the region of translocation. Now it grows on the other plants called the host. So the host is where it is their sink, their source of nutrients, and daughter is where they use respiration. The site of respiration or utilization is called the sink, and that is where the daughter plants use it for itself. So C is the most likely answer. Yes. Okay. Question number 17. The diagram shows the single circulation of a fish and the double circulation of a mammal. Which letters represent the areas of oxygen in blood? Okay, the oxygenated blood, let's look at in the mammal first, because we are most familiar with our own human heart. The oxygenated blood is always in the left side. Remember, in biology, left side is basically your right side. So this is the left, and the right side is basically your left side. So don't get confused, because when you're looking in the other way, it kind of makes sense, because if you turn your body around to the position of the heart, you will see that your right side is actually the left, and your left side is actually the right. Okay, so we know that it has to be on the left side, and it should be on this Y, from the lungs to the atria, to the left atrium. So Y is one of the answers. Okay, and then for the single circulation of the fish, it has got to be S, because the gill capillaries is basically where they use taking oxygen, and the oxygen is going to be transported to the body capillaries. So of course they have to transport oxygenated blood. They would not transport deoxygenated blood, and therefore S is the correct answer, S and Y, and therefore B is the correct answer. Question number 18. The diagram shows the human heart and main blood vessels. What is the blood vessel label X? Okay, so the blood vessel is coming from the lungs. That's one of our clue. And remember, this is the right side, and this is the left side, and this is the left ventricle. If it comes from the lungs, we always use a word associating with the lungs, which is the word pulmonary, and so it is coming towards the heart. If it's coming towards the heart, it is called pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein. And therefore, the structure label X is C. Okay, question number 19. The following are the statements about immunity. The transfer of antibodies from mother to baby in breast milk is an example of passive immunity. This is correct. Antibodies that are acquired from another individual is called passive immunity. Passive immunity results in long-term immunity because of the production of memory cells. This is absolutely false. It should be that active immunity. Passive immunity does not result in long-term. In fact, as a matter of fact, passive immunity results in short-term immunity because it does not produce any memory cells. Okay, active immunity is gained after vaccinations with antigens. This is correct. So 1 and 3 are correct, and therefore C is the correct answer. Question 20. What is the site of gas exchange in humans? Well, this is basically the alveoli. The alveoli exchange the carbon dioxide and the oxygen, so B is the correct answer. Question 21. The substances listed are associated with aerobic respiration. Carbon dioxide, glucose, oxygen, water. Which of the substances are the products of aerobic respiration? Remember the equation. Glucose C6H12O6 plus oxygen, and this is going to produce carbon dioxide and water. The carbon dioxide that you excrete and the water that will be excreted through your skin, this is called sweating. So the products of aerobic respiration is going to be carbon dioxide and water. So 1 and 4, this means that B is the correct answer. Question 22. The formula C2H5OH, this is ethanol, represents a chemical produced during anaerobic respiration. What is this chemical? Ethanol, as you can see, it is from it has an OL suffix or prefix, and this means that they are from the alcohol family. If you do not take chemistry, you would not be familiar with this, but if you do not take chemistry, you can always just memorize, because C2H5OH basically is alcohol or ethanol, to be specific. 23. What is filtered out of the blood in the glomerulus in the kidney tubule? In the kidney tubule, out of the blood. So this is called a process called ultrafiltration, that the glomerulus carry out, and therefore both glucose and urea are going to be filtered out, except the big molecules such as protein. Because they are too big, they cannot pass through the narrow capillaries of the glomerulus, and therefore they won't be filtered out. And therefore A is the correct answer. Question 24. Which responses occur in the iris of the eye when a person walks from a brightly lit area to a dimly lit area? So we have to focus on the dimly lit area. So in a dim area, your pupil is going to increase in size. If your pupil increase in size, this means this is the work of two muscles of the iris, the circular and the radial muscle. And this means that, okay, let me draw this is the circular muscle, and these are the radial muscles. And so the radial muscle have to contract, you have to stretch, while the circular muscle, they are going to relax. And so the circular muscle are going to relax, radial muscle are going to contract. So C is the correct answer. Question 25. Which glands are the endocrine glands? Remember, endocrine glands are glands that produce hormones. So glands such as the testes, the ovaries, the adrenal glands. Okay, so let's look at this. Endocrine. Endo meaning in, taking in. It does not taken out like exocrine meaning some of the examples of the exocrine glands is such as your sweat glands are an example of exocrine glands, because the sweat comes out of your body, but endocrine does not come out of your body, and therefore it is the sweat gland is not an answer to this. So the adrenal gland is one of the answer, the testes also, and the pancreas as well, and therefore the most likelihood is A is the correct answer. Question 26. What are the effects of insulin and adrenaline on the concentration of blood glucose? Okay, insulin is a hormone that is produced by the pancreas, and it stimulates the conversion of glucose to glycogen. So in turn it is decreasing the blood glucose concentration, while the effect of adrenaline is the opposite. Adrenaline is more of like it is the opposite effect of insulin, in which it increases the blood glucose strength concentration. How does it do that? Well, it stimulates the conversion of glycogen to glucose, and therefore glucose concentration in the blood is increased. So B is the correct answer. Question 27. Asexual reproduction can be used to produce crops. Why might a disease be likely to spread throughout the whole crop? Well, this is because the plants are genetically identical to one another. In simple terms, they are basically clones of each other, and if one plant has a weakness to the other disease, all of them are likely to follow through this disease and be affected by it. So B is the correct answer. Question 28. In a comparison between the process of artificial insemination and in vitro fertilization, which statements applies to IVF only? Remember, IVF is basically the embryo is grown in a lab. For artificial insemination, it is basically a sperm donor. It comes from a sperm donor, and the sperm is going to be inserted inside a woman's vagina. Okay, so let's read the options. Human egg cells are harvested from the ovary. This is correct. Only IVF does this process. They harvest the egg cells from the vagina of the female body, but in AI, or artificial insemination, they do not harvest the egg cell. However, they do harvest the sperm from a sperm donor and insert it inside the vagina. And so A is the correct answer. 29. The diagram shows a half flower. There's a description of each number part. Okay, let's label them. The part 1 is called the stigma. Part 2 is called the anther. Part 3 is called the ovule. So the stigma receives pollens from the insects. The anther which produce smooth and light pollen grains. The ovule, where fertilization occurs where the female and male nuclei fuse. Which description is correct for an insect pollinated flower? For insect pollinated flower, the anther will not produce smooth and light pollen grains. They will produce sticky, large, gigantic, in small amounts of pollen grains. Therefore, option 2 is wrong. Okay, and so let's look at option 3. The ovule is where the fertilization occurs. That is where the male and female nuclei fuse, and that is correct. Okay, question number one. Option number one, the stigma which receive pollen from the insects. Okay, they do receive pollen from the insects because the insect will brush against the anther and they will land on the stigma. Therefore, 1 and 3 is correct. B is the correct answer. Question number 30. What is a diploid nucleus? A diploid nucleus is a nucleus that contains a full set of chromosomes. So it contains 2 sets of chromosomes. In humans, we have 46 chromosomes, or 23 pairs chromosomes, so B is the correct answer. Question 31. Which statement about meiosis is correct? So meiosis is basically a reduction division. So it halves the number of chromosomes from a diploid to a haploid. So at the end of the meiosis, a zygote has been produced. This is correct. So A is the correct answer. Question 32. The diagram shows the inheritance of height in pea plants. Which plants have a heterozygous genotype? For this, we have to draw a Punnett square. Basically, it's just like a multiplication table. Okay. So, which plant has heterozygous genotype? Actually, we don't have to draw a Punnett square because they have given us every information that we need. Remember, a heterozygous is basically containing two alleles that are different to each other. So it could be heterozygous. So it could not be 1, it could not be 2, or it could not be the tall parent, it could not be the dwarf parent, because they both are homozygous, which means both of them are the same. They both contains the same alleles. The alleles are not different. But if we look at the offspring's plant, they both contain different alleles. This means they are heterozygous. So we can say that both offspring's plant contain them, so C is the correct answer. Question 33 shows the graph shows the mass of 2 different types of tomato. What can be concluded from the graph? Okay, let's look at type 1 and type 2. So in type 1, we can see that they have a lower mass because there's around 60 grams. And then in type 2, they are the heavier mass, which is 170, 230 grams, so they're pretty heavy. And type 2, remember, you can see at the graph, the number of tomatoes of type 2 are more than type 1. So we can say, okay, let's look at the options. Genes do not affect the mass of tomatoes. Okay. Type 1 tomato shows continuous variation. Type 2 tomatoes are something smaller than type 1 tomatoes. This cannot be said because of the mass. They are definitely bigger than or heavier than the type 1 tomatoes. Type 2 tomatoes shows discontinuous variation. No, they both show continuous variation. And so it's likely that B is the correct answer. Yes, B is the correct answer. Question 34. Which adaptation may be present in a xerophyte? Remember, a xerophyte is a dry plant, a plant that likes to live in dry environments. An example is called the desert. One of the examples of the plant could be the cactus plant. Okay, so the adaptation of a xerophyte is that they have hairs on their body, on their plants, on the stem. So they have stomatal hairs and rolled up leaves. This is to reduce the transpiration, and it kind of makes sense because if you are a human that is living in a desert, that is stuck on the desert, you would not want to lose water from your body as much as possible to prevent dehydration. This is the same for the plant as well, and therefore C is the correct answer. Question 35. The diagram shows a food chain in a rock pool. What will happen if the number of secondary consumers increase? Remember, this is the primary consumer, which is the whelks, and the crabs is the secondary consumer. You might be wondering why is seaweed not the primary consumer? Because it has nothing to consume. it is the start of the food chain, which means it is a producer. So if the number of crabs or the secondary consumer increases, the number there will be the number of works will be lower. There will be fewer works, and therefore C is the correct answer. 36. What is defined as all of the population of different species in an ecosystem? Remember, different species meaning this is a community, not only a population, because it says all the population of different species in the ecosystem. This means this is a community, so A is the correct answer. 37. What is the role of anaerobic respiration in bread making? In bread making, anaerobic respiration is mainly to produce carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide gas helps the bread to rise, and that's why the yeast is used in bread making. This is to produce gas to make the bread rise, therefore B is the correct answer. 38. A crop plant has been genetically modified to make it resistant to herbicides. What is a possible disadvantage of introducing this new crop plant? Well, this means that some weeds might become resistant to the herbicides. This is correct, because some of the weeds they might undergo natural selection, and they might against a struggle for survival, they might evolve. They might evolve to become super weeds, basically unkillable weeds, and therefore B is the correct answer. This is the disadvantage. Okay. Question 39. What is the reason for using bacteria in biotechnology? Well, we have many reasons. One of which is that bacteria, they have rapid rate of reproduction. So they reproduce very rapidly. And then they have extra DNA, or we can call them plasmids. They are plasmids, so we can insert the genes that we like and modify them. They also share the genetic code with all the living things, and so they are very similar. Okay, and they have the ability to make complex molecule as well. So complex molecules, as an example would be insulin. It is a very complex molecule, and bacteria can make insulin if we genetically modify it, and therefore C is the correct answer. This is the reason why bacteria is used in biotechnology as well. Okay, last question. When a river is polluted by a fertilizer, the following process may occur. Increased aerobic respiration of decomposer. This is correct. This increased aerobic respiration means the dissolved oxygen in the lake or pond would decrease, and this would kill the aquatic animals, mammals and plants as well. So this was polluted by fertilizer. Fertilizer, remember, it also contains many nutrients such as nitrate ions, phosphate ions, and this would increase the growth of plants or producers, and this will result in a decrease of oxygen concentration in water as well. This is also correct. So it's asking for the sequence. Well, first of all, because the fertilizer is being polluted, the plants are going to grow first of all, and then when the plants die, the bacteria are going to eat the plant or decompose the plant, and they undergo aerobic respiration, which uses oxygen from the lake, and this results in a decreased oxygen concentration in the water, which kills the fish. So 213, this C is the correct answer. Okay, we have finished all of the questions. If you have any doubts, or if I have been explaining a bit too quickly, you could leave your questions in the comment down below. And as always, thank you for watching. If you want me to do other variants as well, you can type them in the comments below. And there's a playlist for the iGCSE biology, all of the playlists, that if you want to check it out, it will be under the pinned comment below. Okay, I hope you guys really get all of this, and I suppose the biology paper is going to be very easy, and you guys got it. So until I see you in the next video, bye bye.